Fairy tales have played a great part in our lives. You could say they are a staple in our culture. We have read them at bedtime, studied them at school, and even seen them in the movies. I'm more than sure you've heard the stories The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, and Snow White. However, through the centuries, there have been a handful of fairy tales, even from famous authors like Hans Christian Andersen and the Brothers Grimm, that we don't hear much about. Perhaps they fell under the radar, or there may be reasons why most people want to keep these stories hidden. So today, we're going to take a look into 10 dark and obscure fairy tales.
The Death of the Little Hen by the Brothers Grimm. In this tale, a little hen chokes on a nut and begs the little rooster to fetch her water. The river demands a trade of red silk from a woman before giving him water. Then the woman asks to trade for a wreath from a nearby willow. And obviously during this whole charade, the rooster is too late in delivering the water to the hen, and she dies. The forest mice assist the rooster by building a carriage for the hen and then try to give her a proper send-off. In their funeral procession, the little animals must cross over the river. A straw, a lump of coal, and a stone try to assist the animals crossing the river. Each fails and results in everyone except the rooster from drowning. In the end, the little rooster is left alone with the dead hen. He digs her a grave and mourns until he dies as well. Yes, everyone in this story dies.
The Maiden with the Rose on Her Forehead by Consigliere Pedroso. In this little-known Portuguese tale, a prince owns a very beautiful rose garden to which he and only he may tend to. When he goes away to war, he entrusts his sister to tend to the garden. The princess cares for the garden endlessly day and night when, very oddly, the rose garden impregnates her. She then gives birth to a little girl who has a rose on her forehead. Ashamed of this and wanting to keep it a secret, the princess sends the girl to school with the strict instructions to never let anyone know who she is. If she ever did, her mother would kill her. 5 years later, the prince returns and visits the girl's school. The prince offers the girl cherries, but she refuses, and the other children end up throwing the fruit around. One of the cherries sticks to the girl's socks, and when the princess sees this, she assumes the girl has revealed her secret to the prince. As a result, the princess kills the girl by stabbing her forehead with her comb and then hides her body in an iron chest. Struck with grief, the princess dies as well. Before her death, the princess passes the key to the room with the iron chest to her brother and orders him to never open it. The prince soon marries, but his ever-so-loyal wife and mother-in-law use the key and find the girl in the room with the iron chest sewing. I suppose she never died after all. In their jealousy of the girl's beauty, the women use the hot iron to burn the girl's face and her skin. The prince eventually finds out the girl's identity when she tells her story to a talisman. After the prince realizes she is his niece, he decides to punish his wife and mother-in-law by burning them with hot iron and then burying them alive.
The Ungrateful Son by the Brothers Grimm. A man prepares a lovely roasted chicken dinner for himself and his wife. The man's father tries to join them for dinner. Unwilling to share the chicken, he hides it before the father could see it. After the father leaves, the man tries to grab the chicken back out, but it transforms into a giant, horrendous toad that latches itself onto the man's face. The toad would look venomously at anyone who tried to remove it and forces the man to feed him. If he failed to give the toad a meal, then it would eat the man's flesh. Thus, he carries on this lifestyle for the rest of his life.
On the Last Day by Hans Christian Andersen. This tale from the Hans Christian Andersen tells of a man's experience after death, and it is not very pleasant. As the man follows death into the afterlife, he witnesses a rather odd masquerade of people in masks in a variety of clothes, ranging from luscious velvet to raggedy rags. The people in the masquerade yank at each other's robes to reveal an animal peeping out from their clothes. Death explains that these are the wild animals we keep hidden. Keep in mind that these animals consist of grinning apes, ugly goats, and the man himself conceals a peacock. The man and Death then witness a storm of birds screaming horrid, awful things at them. Death then explains to the man that the birds are screaming every evil thought he has had in life. As the man tries to escape the birds, he slices his feet amongst an ocean of stones that consume the ground. Death explains to the man that those stones represent every wound he left on another person in his life. In the very end, the man proves his loyalty to God and is finally granted mercy into heaven.
The Strange Feast by the Brothers Grimm. This very strange tale from the Brothers Grimm features a blood and a liver sausage who have been friends for quite a while. The blood sausage invites the liver sausage for dinner at her house, but when the liver sausage sets out for her friend's house, she witnesses very grotesque and odd things. Along the steps, the liver sausage sees a broom and shovel fighting, a monkey with a big wound on its head, and more. The liver sausage, obviously frightened by this, enters the blood sausage's room. However, whenever the liver sausage would ask the blood sausage about the horrific things on the stairs, the blood sausage would just ignore her or brush off all the questions. When the blood sausage leaves the room to check on the food, the liver sausage sees an apparition in the room. The apparition tells the blood sausage that she is in a murderous trap and that she must leave. The liver sausage, without hesitation, leaves the house. When she reaches the street, she turns around and sees, from the attic window, the silhouette of the blood sausage holding a freshly sharpened knife. The story ends with the blood sausage crying out, "If I had caught you, I would have you."
The Dead Mother by Alexander Afanasiev. In this Russian folk tale, a married couple seem to be the envy of the village. They are young, happy, and live peaceably. The mistress of the couple is then expecting a child. However, as soon as the family could reach their peak of happiness, the mistress dies from childbirth. The now single father must find a way to feed his newborn child, so he hires a nursemaid. The child would refuse to eat and would endlessly cry. However, what makes things strange for this family is that every night, the nursemaid would hear the door to the baby's bedroom shut on its own, and then the baby will mysteriously become silent. More, the child would eat nothing from the nursemaid, but would still be well nourished. The father decides to gather the village people to watch the child overnight, and they make a chilling discovery. The reason why the baby stopped crying at midnight was because the mistress's ghost would visit the child and nurse her every night. The villagers light the room up with a candle, and then the mistress disappears. Unfortunately, they find out that the child had died.
How Some Children Played at Slaughtering by the Brothers Grimm. In a city named Freniker, a group of boys and girls who were only 5 to 6 years old decide to play a game. A boy played a butcher, another boy played a cook, and a third boy played a pig. The 2 girls played a cook and the assistant. The boy who played the butcher fell upon the boy playing the pig and actually slaughters him by slitting his throat. A councilman witnesses this barbaric game and takes the boy who played the butcher to the mayor. And because this boy is so young, the judge decides to test him by displaying a delicious red apple and a gold coin in front of the boy. If the boy took the gold coin, it would prove his understandings of actions and he would be executed. However, he ends up taking the apple and is then set free.
The Girl Who Trod on Loaf by Hans Christian Andersen. This obscure and bizarre tale from Hans Christian Andersen revolves around a girl named Inga. Though Inga is poor, she is very arrogant, wicked, and would often do things to hurt the people around her. She grows up to be a maid, but her pride and arrogance grows as well. One day, as Inga is traveling to visit her parents, she stumbles upon a crossroad full of wet, muddy puddles. Instead of simply walking around the puddles, Inga tosses down a loaf of bread to step on as to prevent her clothes from being soiled. However, when she steps on the bread, she immediately drowns in the depths of hell. Inga's foot is forever trapped against the bread and her body becomes stiff like a statue, having only the marsh women to keep her company. While down in hell, Inga still hears rumors and the things people say about her, mainly about the faults she had in her life. Her heart begins to change, especially when she hears the remorse and sympathy from her own mother to whom she had turned her back on. After repenting for her sins, Inga is granted a second chance at life as a seagull.
The Old Woman Who Was Skinned Alive by Giambattista Bastille. In this rather morbid tale by Giambattista Bastille, a king meets 2 gruesome old hags who have a delusion that they are actually 2 beautiful, delicate maidens because their beauty is quote-unquote hidden behind walls. The king, supposedly under the same delusion, kisses the hag's fingers through a keyhole and begs to spend the night with one of them. The elder hag agrees, under the condition that the king will take her under complete darkness. Wonder why? The king agrees and, in an effort to feel younger, the elder hag hides most of her loose flesh by tying it behind her back. During their rendezvous, the king discovers the elder hag's secret. Enraged, he tosses her out the window. While this is going on, several fairies pass by and witness the ordeal. In their laughter at the elder hag's misfortune, they magically grant her the gifts of youth and beauty. The king sees the beautiful elder hag and immediately asks her for her hand in marriage. At the wedding, the hag's younger sister asks how she was able to attain such beauty. The elder hag, not wanting to give her secret away, simply tells her sister that she was skinned alive. Believing this was the truth, the younger hag goes to the barber to be skinned as well, only to die from blood loss.
The Red Shoes by Hans Christian Andersen. The Red Shoes tells the story of a young peasant girl named Karen. Karen is one day given a pair of red shoes. Because Karen is vain and spoiled, she's infatuated with the red shoes and wears them everywhere, even to church, where it was considered disrespectful, as only black shoes should be worn at church. However, Karen would brush this off, and continue to wear the shoes even to church the next week. This time, before Karen enters the church, she meets a crippled old soldier in front of the church doors. The soldier says to the girl, "Why, just look. Such lovely dancing shoes. Stick tight when you dance," as he slaps the soles of the red shoes. After the Mass, Karen begins to dance out of her own will, but is able to stop after a few minutes. Karen's stepmother soon becomes ill, but instead of caring for her stepmother, Karen goes dancing at a ball instead. After the ball, Karen dances onto the churchyard and then meets an angel who wields a sword. He says, "Dance you shall. Dance in your red shoes until you turn pale and cold, until your skin shrivels up like a skeleton's. Dance you shall from door to door, and where proud, vain children live, you shall knock on their door, so that they hear you and fear you. Dance you shall. Dance." The shoes then take control of Karen's feet, making her dance endlessly. Desperate for freedom, Karen begs an executioner to cut off her feet to be free, to which he does. Even with her feet cut off, though, the shoes continued to dance, with her amputated feet still inside of them. Whenever Karen would try to return to church, the shoes with her feet would still appear dancing at the church doors, frightening her away. Alone at home, Karen finally prays to God and begs for his mercy. The same angel who had cursed Karen then reappears to her and grants her the mercy she had begged for by filling her heart with so much peace and joy that it bursts, sending her soul to heaven.